Hello everyone, today we are going to solve this question number 147 from OG 2022. However, if you have a different version of official guide, look up PS15111 to find this word problem. More than 30% people get this problem wrong, even though it is very easy to solve. And in today's video, we are going to solve this problem in 3 different ways. We will talk about the common mistakes people make while solving this problem so that you can avoid making those mistakes in future. And finally, we'll talk about some key takeaways that is applicable to this problem and any word problem that you are trying to solve in future. So let's get started. So the 3 approaches we are going to take are, first one is reasoning only approach. We are going to express everything with respect to 50% of the previous year. The second approach is to express the change as fractions. And finally, we will actually do the calculation to find the percentage change. And you will see that the amount of calculation needed increases from approach 1 all the way to approach 3, but also the specificity of the answer, the quality of the answer you get also increases, but at the cost of time. Some important key mistakes that you must avoid while solving problems like this. First of all, it is clearly given that you have to consider the magnitude of the change, which means you cannot assume negative values when the value is decreasing from a higher value in the previous year in the newer value. A lot of people make a mistake of assuming negative values and ignoring them because negative is always going to be small and the question is asking greatest change. The second mistake everybody makes is the calculation mistake. Although the values are very easy, however, if you are looking at the graph incorrectly or noting down the values incorrectly, you will end up making a calculation mistake. So make sure when you're copying down the values from the graph to your scratch paper that you have copied the values correctly. And finally, the most basic and fundamental mistake people make is using the wrong denominator in calculating everything. All your hard work and calculations are going to be a waste if you do not understand that change is always measured with respect to the previous, or change is always measured with respect to the starting point, and the starting point or the previous year has to be the denominator. What that means is if I am calculating change from point 1 to point 2, point 1 would be in the denominator. If you take point 2 in the denominator and make a calculation accordingly, you will get a very different result and very likely an incorrect result as well. Okay, so the first method I'm going to use is a comparative approach which is likely to give me an answer but not guaranteed to give me an answer, and here is how I would do it. For each of the years I will write down the values, so it is 20. Okay, and then since we are calculate the magnitude of change, I'm going to keep in mind the 50% of every value. So 50% of 20 is 10 and the next value is 12. So the change is less than 50% because this value is 12 greater than. So I'm going to just write less than 50%. Now the 50% value of 12 is 6. So 12 plus 6 is 18. So this change is exactly 50%. 18 to 10, the 50% of 18 is 9. This is actually 10. So the change is slightly less than 50%, otherwise it would have gone all the way to 9. So again I write less than 50%. The 50% value of 10 is 5, and here we have 16, so 6 added to 10, so more than 5 added to 10. So this change is greater than 50%, right? If it were 50%, it would be 15. And finally the 50% of 16 is 8. So the change here is 8. 16 minus 8 would be 8. So change here is exactly 50%. And at this point I can clearly see that this is less than 50%, 50%, 50%. This is less than 50%. Only this one is greater than 50%, 10 to 16. So day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So day 4 to day 5 is when I would have the biggest change, and that is going to be my answer. Now there was a likelihood that I would not get an answer from this approach if, let's say, everybody was less than 50% or majority of them were greater than 50%. Then I would have to go to the next step, which is my method number 2. In method number 2, I would actually write down the change as fractions. So let's do that very quickly. From day 1 to day 2, you have 12 minus 20 divided by 20. Remember, we talked about denominator being the starting value, and that is equal to 8 by 20. I'm going to quickly do that for the other values. So it is 8 by 20 for day 1 to day 2, and it is 6 by 12 for day 2 to day 3, 8 by 18 for day 3 to day 4, 6 by 10 for day 4 to day 5, and 8 by 16 for day 5 to day 6. Now, instead of going to the calculation directly, let's wait here for a moment and just try to compare these fractions. For the fractions where the numerators are the same, so 8, 8, 8 here, you can find the largest one but by finding which of them have the least denominator. So here the least denominator is 16, so this will be the largest value, right? And between 6 by 12 and 6 by 10, you know the denominator is less here, so this will be the maximum value. So the problem really comes down to measuring 6 by 10 versus 8 by 16. Now you can very easily see that 8 by 16 is 50% and 6 by 10 is 60%. So this will be higher. So the answer again is D, day 4 to day 5. You did not need to calculate all of the fractions. The final method is very similar. You would get all of these fractions and actually calculate them. So in the method 3, we are going to take it to the next level and actually calculate the percentages. I'm going to do that very quickly. This is the percentage where you will spend the most amount of time, resulting in wastage of time which you didn't really need to do. And you can clearly see that this is the highest value, hence the answer to this question is D. So we solved this question in 3 different methods. Which of the method is recommended and what is it that we learned from solving this question? Let's look at that. The first thing that you must remember is you have to choose the right denominator. Even if you know this, you may make a mistake when you're in a hurry to solve the problem. So try to practice these percentage change problems and always remember that the percentage change is always with respect to the starting point or the previous year or the previous day. Pay attention to the language. As we saw that the common mistake is people not noticing that we have to just compare the magnitude rather than the actual signs and actual changes. And as a result, they discarded the negative amount, which could result in a mistake. However, that is not applicable in this problem. However, it is a possible mistake. And finally, you need to know when to actually calculate. And when you are solving word problems like these in future, always try to understand the most logical approach to solve the question and the pure mathematical approach to solve the question. It is okay if you end up doing somewhere in the middle in the exam. However, what is more important is you learning and practicing both the approaches so that in the exam you are flexible in which approach you want to choose. And it is okay to choose a mix and match approach as long as you don't end up making mistake when you're translating from a logical to a mathematical point of view. And the most important tip here, if you find a word problem that you're not able to figure out either a mathematical approach or a more logical approach than what you have, ask someone. Join a Facebook group, join a WhatsApp group. I have a very active WhatsApp group that you could also join. If you want to join that, please leave a comment below, but ask somebody and get their perspective. I hope you found this video helpful and you found a lot of value from it. If you have any questions, please leave a comment and do not forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you and have a great day.